What if the next chapter of human civilization isn't written among the stars but beneath the waves? Imagine descending in a sleek submersible through the quiet twilight waters of the Pacific. Schools of bioluminescent fish dart past as you approach a glowing dome rising from the ocean floor. Inside, people move effortlessly through pressurized tunnels. Crops of seaweed sway in underwater farms. Drones patrol the outer walls, harvesting data from the surrounding currents. Welcome to humanity's next great frontier, an underwater city. It sounds like the stuff of science fiction, doesn't it? But the idea of living beneath the ocean's surface has fascinated us for generations. Jules Verne first captured it in the 1860s with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, imagining the mysterious Captain Nemo aboard his submarine, the Nautilus. Over the decades, that dream evolved into the sleek retro-futurism of the 1960s Sea-Lab projects, into the apocalyptic visions of Waterworld, and now into something far more grounded in science and necessity. With sea levels rising, populations surging, and Earth's ecosystems under mounting stress, the question isn't just could we live underwater, it's should we? Consider this. The ocean covers more than 70% of Earth's surface, yet we've explored only a tiny fraction of it, less than 5% to be precise. That's like living in a mansion your entire life and never leaving the front hallway. And within that unexplored vastness lies an opportunity, not just for curiosity, but for survival. Ocean colonization could help alleviate overpopulation, reduce the pressure on land ecosystems, and unlock new sources of clean energy and sustainable food. But the challenge is monumental, because building a city underwater is nothing like building one on land. Let's break it down. The first problem: pressure. Water is heavy. Just a 10-meter descent adds about 1 additional atmosphere of pressure. At 100 meters down, around 330 feet, you're dealing with 10 times the pressure at sea level. That's enough to collapse an unreinforced metal structure like a soda can. Any underwater habitat must be engineered with reinforced materials, sealed environments, and precise pressure regulation to protect human life. And that's just scratching the surface. Oxygen presents another issue. You can't just pump in air the way you would in a building above ground. Systems must constantly recycle carbon dioxide, regulate humidity, and maintain breathable air levels, much like those used aboard submarines, or the ISS energy supply becomes a major hurdle too. Solar panels lose efficiency underwater, so other sources, like thermal energy from hydrothermal vents, tidal turbines, or even algae biofuel, must be developed and deployed. Then there's waste, biological, chemical, even psychological. Isolation, darkness, and confined spaces can take a toll on mental health. So how do we design habitats that not only function, but allow people to thrive? These aren't abstract questions. In recent years, architects and marine engineers have proposed, and in some cases built, experimental underwater structures. One of the most ambitious concepts is Ocean Spiral, designed by Japan's Shimizu Corporation. Picture this: a 300-meter diameter floating sphere suspended just below the ocean surface, connected to the seafloor by a spiraling tower more than 3,000 feet long. Inside the sphere, thousands of people could live and work in climate-controlled environments, powered by ocean thermal energy conversion. Beneath, the spiral would harvest minerals, generate power, and manage waste in an entirely self-contained system. While still in the conceptual phase, the engineering is feasible, and the company believes the first phase could be operational by the 2030s. Another bold vision comes from Jacques Rougerie, a French architect and oceanographer, who has dedicated his life to designing floating and submerged cities. His Sea Orbiter project combines the aesthetics of a science fiction vessel with real scientific utility. It drifts passively with ocean currents, using underwater turbines to generate power. Half submerged, it acts as a platform for marine research and astronaut training. Rougerie's ultimate goal? To create a new kind of civilization, one that coexists with the ocean rather than conquering it. And speaking of astronaut training, this is where things get even more interesting. NASA's NEMO, that's NASA, Extreme Environment Mission Operations, uses underwater habitats off the coast of Florida to train astronauts in conditions that mimic deep space. Living inside the Aquarius Reef Base, just 62 feet below the surface, crews simulate long-duration missions, learning to work in tight quarters with delayed communications and no easy escape. These experiments are shaping the designs of future Moon and Mars bases, but they're also directly applicable to underwater colonization. The technology, the psychology, the logistics, all overlap. Every great journey starts with a few brave explorers. Right now, Cosmic Whispers is just beginning, and your support means everything. If you enjoy unraveling the mysteries of the universe, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us grow this community together. Now let's think beyond the blueprints. Imagine what daily life might look like in one of these aquatic cities. Picture yourself waking up in a pressure-stabilized apartment, light streaming through transparent walls that reveal coral gardens outside. You walk through connecting tubes to work in a marine biology lab, harvesting kelp for biofuel or tending to deep-sea algae farms. Your children attend school modules where their curriculum includes marine robotics and ocean ethics. Transportation happens via pressurized trams and submersible pods. Even waste is recycled in real time using living bacterial systems. It's not just science, it's science fiction becoming reality. But here's the catch: the ocean is a fragile, interconnected system. Introducing massive human structures into it isn't without consequence. Could we accidentally damage deep-sea ecosystems, pollute hidden biospheres, or displace species we've barely begun to understand? These are urgent ethical questions, and they're not hypothetical. Already we're seeing the effects of deep-sea mining and plastic pollution on marine life. If we want to build underwater civilizations, we'll need to do it responsibly, learning from our mistakes on land, not repeating them beneath the sea. So, what if the future of Earth isn't just above us, in the stars, but below us, in the depths? What if the key to solving some of our most pressing planetary challenges lies hidden beneath thousands of feet of water? In the next section, we'll explore the radical technologies, AI-managed ecosystems, pressure-resistant habitats, and floating power platforms that are turning dreams of underwater life into reality, faster than you think. As we venture deeper into the future of underwater colonization, we begin to ask, what are the specific technologies that will make these oceanic cities a reality? How do we move from blueprints and conceptual sketches to fully functioning, sustainable habitats deep beneath the sea? The answer lies in some truly remarkable advancements in engineering, renewable energy, artificial intelligence, and material science. These breakthroughs are not only making underwater cities possible, but are also laying the groundwork for the kind of self-sustaining ecosystems that could one day thrive miles beneath the surface. One of the most crucial technologies that will drive underwater colonization is the development of pressure-resistant materials. You see, while we're all familiar with the Titanic's tragic sinking, it's easy to forget that the ship was designed with technology from the early 20th century. Modern ocean exploration, however, relies on far more advanced materials. For instance, one of the most promising materials in deep-sea construction is titanium. Known for its strength, lightness, and resistance to corrosion, titanium is an ideal candidate for building underwater structures that must withstand the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. Alongside titanium, researchers are exploring carbon, fiber composites, and other synthetic polymers, which can be used to create incredibly strong and durable outer walls for underwater cities. These materials aren't just stronger, they're lighter and more flexible than traditional metals, allowing for the construction of complex, curved shapes that can adapt to the natural movements of the ocean. These materials allow for the creation of structures that can not only survive deep-sea pressures, but also shift and adapt as the ocean itself moves. Think of it like building skyscrapers that sway with the wind, except here the forces at play are far more intense. Engineers are using cutting-edge algorithms and simulations to predict how these structures will behave under constant pressure and wave movement. The result? Buildings that can bend and flex with the current, reducing stress on the materials and ensuring stability even in the most extreme conditions. These designs go far beyond the rigid, stationary structures we're used to on land. They must be dynamic, flexible, and able to absorb the ocean's powerful forces. But what about power? After all, any self-sustaining underwater city will need a reliable energy source. Enter Ocean Thermal Energy Conversion, OTEC, one of the most promising and innovative solutions for generating power from the ocean. OTEC works by harnessing the temperature difference between warm surface waters and the cold, deep waters of the ocean to generate electricity. The process is essentially a massive heat engine with a working fluid that evaporates when it absorbs heat from the surface water, turning turbines to produce electricity. Once the heat is extracted, the fluid condenses back into liquid form using the cold water from deeper ocean layers, and the cycle repeats. OTEC is still in its infancy, but has already been demonstrated in pilot projects. A facility in Hawaii, for instance, has been successfully generating power through this method for several years. Imagine for a moment a city that not only generates its own power through sustainable means, but does so by tapping into the very ocean that surrounds it. This is the future of energy, clean, renewable, and as infinite as the tides. However, energy isn't the only thing an underwater city needs to function. It also needs food, and one of the most promising sources of sustenance comes from aquaculture, the farming of marine life. While traditional agriculture relies on land and freshwater, aquaculture can thrive in the oceans, using fish, seaweed, and other organisms to create a sustainable food source. Imagine vast glowing farms suspended beneath the surface, where seaweed is cultivated for both food and biofuels, and fish are bred in carefully controlled environments to avoid overfishing and depletion of natural stocks. One of the most advanced forms of aquaculture being explored today is vertical farming in the ocean. Just like its land-based counterpart, vertical farming stacks crops on multiple levels to maximize space. Underwater vertical farms can take advantage of nutrient-rich ocean currents and sunlight filtering through the surface. These farms will use algae, which grows incredibly fast and requires little in the way of resources, to provide food, oxygen, and even biofuels. The added benefit? Algae can absorb excess carbon dioxide, helping to mitigate the very problem that ocean colonization might create, an excess of CO2 in the water column, which could disrupt marine ecosystems. By utilizing algae, these farms could not only provide a food source, but also help manage climate change in a closed-loop system. Yet, food and energy aren't enough on their own. How do you create a truly livable environment in these harsh conditions? This is where artificial intelligence comes in. In the same way that AI is revolutionizing space exploration, it's now being adapted for underwater colonization. AI-powered systems will be used to monitor and manage the health of both the underwater habitats and the surrounding ecosystems. From controlling the temperature and air quality inside the domes to adjusting the salinity of water in farming environments, AI will serve as the unseen hand, guiding every aspect of daily life. Additionally, AI will help monitor the structures themselves, detecting signs of wear and tear, corrosion, or pressure imbalances before they become a problem. These intelligent systems will also be crucial for maintaining the delicate balance of marine life around the cities, ensuring that human habitation doesn't harm the local ecosystems. But even with all of this technology, one fundamental question remains: how do we ensure that humans can live underwater for extended periods without succumbing to the isolation, pressure, and dangers of the deep? The answer lies in biomimicry, the science of designing systems inspired by nature. Underwater habitats are already being designed to mimic natural forms. Think of coral reefs, which provide homes for millions of species by using natural materials that adapt to changing conditions. By mimicking these forms, we can create habitats that provide a sense of comfort, stability, and safety for their human inhabitants. These environments will incorporate natural ventilation, water purification systems that use marine organisms, and green spaces that simulate a healthier, more holistic atmosphere. And what about transportation? Getting to and from an underwater city might sound like a logistical nightmare, but again, technology is making this possible. Submarine taxis, autonomous underwater drones, and even pressure-resistant pods are being developed to allow people to travel between the surface and the depth safely. These pods could be powered by the same renewable energy sources that sustain the city itself, transporting people and supplies without leaving a carbon footprint. With all of these advances, it's clear that the dream of underwater cities is no longer just a distant possibility. It's fast becoming an imminent reality. But as we plunge deeper into the idea of ocean colonization, we must ask, what does it mean to live beneath the waves? What sacrifices will we make to adapt to this new world, and how will we balance the technological marvels with the environmental challenges that come with them? In the next section, we'll explore the environmental impact of building underwater cities. Will we create sustainable sanctuaries or disrupt the very ecosystems we depend on? We'll dive into the ethical considerations, the potential risks, and the opportunities for coexisting with the ocean instead of conquering it. As we venture deeper into the idea of underwater cities, we can't ignore the elephant in the room, the environment. Can humanity truly live beneath the waves without irreparably harming the delicate ecosystems we've only begun to understand? Or will these grand ideas of ocean colonization lead to unintended consequences, disrupting the ocean's natural rhythms, threatening species, and potentially accelerating the environmental crises we've been trying to escape? The stakes are high and the answers aren't simple. Imagine this. You've just stepped off a submersible and into one of the first self-sustaining underwater habitats. Around you, the faint blue glow of bioluminescent organisms casts an eerie light. You breathe in the air that's been carefully filtered and recycled. The temperature is perfect, the water pressure balanced to match the habitat's environment. Outside the dome, schools of fish swim past, unaware of the humans living just beyond their reach. At first glance, it's a utopian scene, a harmonious blend of technology and nature. But dig deeper, and the question emerges: how much of this harmony is real, and how much of it is a fragile illusion? The truth is, the oceans are already under pressure. Overfishing, plastic pollution, acidification due to climate change, and the degradation of coral reefs have caused irreversible damage to marine ecosystems. As human civilization expands into the deep sea, there's the very real risk that we might disrupt these ecosystems even further. If we want to build underwater cities, we need to tread carefully, ensuring that the habitats we create don't just survive, but coexist with the ocean. One of the first considerations is the sheer scale of construction. Large-scale underwater structures will inevitably disturb the seafloor, potentially disturbing fragile habitats like deep-sea corals or seagrass beds. These areas act as nurseries for marine life, providing shelter and food for countless species. If we're not careful, underwater cities could disrupt the delicate balance of these ecosystems. And let's not forget about the noise. Underwater construction, the constant movement of submersibles, and even the hum of energy production could interfere with marine species that rely on sound for communication and navigation. Whales, dolphins, and fish use sonar to communicate, hunt, and navigate vast distances. Introducing human-made noise could disorient or even disrupt entire populations. Yet, there's hope. Eco-friendly design is emerging as a key solution. In order to minimize the environmental impact, architects and engineers are working on ways to make underwater cities as sustainable as possible. One concept that's gaining traction is the idea of building structures that mimic the natural environment. For instance, rather than creating rigid, unnatural shapes, engineers are looking at ways to design cities that resemble coral reefs or underwater caves. These structures could not only blend into the environment, but actually contribute to marine life, by encouraging the growth of coral, providing habitats for fish, and even acting as artificial reefs. Imagine an underwater city designed like an enormous multi-level coral reef, where each building serves as a mini ecosystem, supporting marine life in a way that's beneficial to both humans and ocean creatures. Through biomimicry, the process of learning from nature's own designs, scientists are finding ways to integrate living organisms into the architecture itself. This includes using algae to help clean water, creating artificial reefs around the structures to attract marine life, and even engineering the habitats to be more in tune with natural currents and tidal cycles. By working with the ocean, rather than against it, we can create living spaces that actually benefit the surrounding environment. These eco-cities could even help restore damaged ecosystems, acting as marine conservation hubs rather than threats. But even the best intentions won't eliminate the risks entirely. Waste management will be a huge challenge. How do we dispose of human waste, chemicals, and other byproducts in a way that doesn't contaminate the ocean? The traditional waste treatment systems we use on land simply won't work underwater. In fact, underwater habitats will need completely new methods of waste management, using advanced filtration systems and possibly even biological treatments to recycle waste into useful resources. And that's not even considering the challenge of desalination, turning saltwater into fresh water. It's not enough to just pump in fresh water from the surface. It would need to be continuously produced locally without overburdening the system. One company exploring these solutions is Oceanics, a visionary startup focused on creating floating, self-sustaining communities in the ocean. Their concept? A floating city, but with sustainability built into every layer of its design. From using solar panels and algae biofuel to desalinate seawater and recycle waste, Oceanics' designs aim to integrate nature into the very framework of the city. By using modular, flexible units that float on the ocean's surface, they can build a fully self-sustaining, eco-friendly city that's designed to adapt to changing ocean conditions. But as these cities take shape, we must also confront a stark reality. Building underwater cities might become necessary in the face of climate change. With rising sea levels threatening coastal cities and entire nations, the ocean is becoming an increasingly important refuge. In fact, some scientists are proposing that humanity might need to create floating and submerged cities to survive the coming century. The Dutch, for instance, are already pioneering floating structures in places like Amsterdam and Rotterdam to counteract rising sea levels. Their experience in water management, along with advances in marine engineering, will likely play a crucial role in designing viable underwater cities. The reality of this challenge has already been acknowledged by groups like the United Nations and the World Economic Forum, who have begun discussions about ocean-based solutions to climate change. It's not just about surviving in these environments, it's about integrating the ocean into our global network of cities in a sustainable way. We'll need to develop international policies, create marine-protected areas, and establish guidelines for building in such sensitive environments. The future of ocean colonization doesn't just lie in technology. It lies in our ability to work together on a global scale to protect our planet's most valuable resource, the ocean. But for all the challenges, the rewards of building underwater cities are immense. These cities wouldn't just help alleviate the pressures on land-based ecosystems, they could serve as hubs for marine research, conservation, and innovation. They could help us unlock the mysteries of the deep ocean, mysteries that might hold the key to curing diseases, finding new forms of energy, or learning to live in perfect harmony with nature. These cities could become the breeding grounds for a new era of environmental stewardship, where humans don't just take from the earth, but also give back to it in meaningful ways. As we continue to explore the future of ocean colonization, the questions are only going to become more complex. Can we balance innovation with responsibility? Can we create cities that don't just survive but thrive beneath the waves? And perhaps most importantly, what role will you play in this grand adventure? As the world begins to look to the oceans for refuge, the ultimate question arises: what will life be like for those who choose to call these underwater cities home? Living beneath the waves sounds like something out of a sci-fi novel, but it's becoming more and more plausible every day. But what would it mean to live in an environment where the air is filtered, the water is recycled, and the ground beneath you is constantly shifting in the ocean's rhythm? It's a question that not only involves technological innovation, but profound changes in how we view community, life, and our relationship with the natural world. Let's start with the very basics. How do we breathe underwater? It's a thought that has baffled humankind for centuries. How can we live in an environment made up almost entirely of water? The answer lies in advanced air filtration and circulation systems that allow for breathable air in these submerged habitats. The concept isn't new. Astronauts breathe in controlled environments aboard spacecraft, and modern submarines use similar systems to keep their crew alive for months on end. These underwater cities would rely on similar technologies, using a combination of oxygen generators and carbon dioxide scrubbers to ensure a constant supply of fresh air. But these systems would be more advanced, integrating renewable energy sources like OTEC, ocean thermal energy conversion, to power the entire life support infrastructure. The key challenge will be ensuring that these systems remain autonomous, so they don't depend on external supplies. After all, there's no quick way to call for backup when you're deep beneath the surface of the ocean. Once we've got air, we need to think about the most basic human need: food. Living underwater means that traditional farming won't work. So what alternatives are there? Aquaponics and hydroponics are already being used in space stations and experimental agricultural systems, and they'll play a key role in underwater cities as well. These systems allow plants to be grown without soil, using nutrient-rich water to sustain crops. These crops can be grown in closed-loop systems, where waste from fish or algae farms is recycled into plant food, creating a self-sustaining ecosystem. This will be especially important in underwater colonies, where fresh water and arable land are non-existent. On top of that, the oceans themselves offer incredible potential for sustainable food production through aquaculture, of course. Fish, shellfish and seaweed will be farmed, providing an abundant food source directly from the surrounding ocean. But there's something deeper at play here. Living in an underwater city isn't just about surviving. It's about adjusting to a whole new way of life: gravity. Down in these cities, the pressure and density of water create a sensation that is unlike anything we've felt on land. While gravity would be the same, the sheer weight of the water all around you would change the way your body interacts with space. Imagine waking up in the morning and stepping outside your home, not to a city street, but to an oceanic vista. Coral reefs stretching as far as the eye can see, fish darting around you, and the sun glinting through the water's surface above. The ocean's gentle pressure would make everyday activities a little different, like floating instead of walking, or swimming to your local market instead of driving. More than just a physical challenge, the isolation of living beneath the ocean's surface would be mentally taxing. Being surrounded by water for months at a time, separated from the outside world by miles of ocean, could cause feelings of claustrophobia or isolation. How will we deal with the psychological effects of living in such an alien environment? The answer, perhaps, lies in the concept of biophilic design. This is the idea that humans are innately drawn to nature, and that incorporating elements of the natural world into our environments, like plant life, natural lighting, and open spaces, can improve our physical and mental well-being. Underwater cities will likely need to incorporate natural elements into their design, including green spaces with plants and artificial reefs that mimic the environment on land, in order to maintain the psychological health of their inhabitants. Imagine working in an office that's designed to resemble a coral garden, or relaxing in a park that lets you swim among schools of colorful fish. These cities will need to be designed with the mental and emotional well-being of their inhabitants in mind, making sure that life beneath the surface doesn't feel too alien or detached from the human experience. One major shift that underwater cities will bring is the way we view community. On land, we are accustomed to our cities sprawling across vast expanses, with sprawling suburbs, highways, and endless developments. But underwater, space is limited. The cities will be compact, tightly integrated, and built with sustainability at their core. Rather than sprawling outwards, these cities will grow upwards and downwards, with multi-layered buildings that stack vertically, maximizing the use of space. In these vertical communities, neighborhoods will be carefully designed to promote close-knit social interactions. Whether it's communal gardens where people grow their own food, or underwater gathering spaces that allow residents to connect in a shared oceanic environment, the design of these cities will encourage a sense of community, helping people thrive, not just physically but socially and emotionally. Of course, in a world where technology is advancing at a breakneck pace, there will also be incredible new forms of transportation. Getting from one part of the underwater city to another will likely involve a system of autonomous submarines and underwater drones, transportation methods that are as fast as they are fascinating. Imagine zipping from your home to your office in a sleek, pressure-proof pod that glides effortlessly through the water, navigating tunnels built into the seafloor. The oceans themselves will become the highways of the future, connecting people and ideas from every corner of the globe. As we end this journey into the future of ocean colonization, one thing is clear: the ocean holds untold possibilities. The dream of underwater cities is no longer a matter of if, but when. The real question is, will we be ready to embrace this new frontier? And what sacrifices will we make in the process? Let us know what you think. Would you want to live beneath the waves? Do you think humanity can truly colonize the ocean without damaging it forever? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed diving into the depths with us, please like, share, and comment on this video. Your thoughts and support help us bring more of these cosmic explorations your way. Thanks for being part of this journey with Cosmic Whispers. We'll see you in the next one.